Hi, I'm Bob Tabor with LearnVisualStudio.net. Currently, we can find all images on Flickr based on the locale of the device. However, in our original low-tech mockup design, we wanted to allow the user to filter the results by a keyword or search phrase. So that we're going to enable that in this lesson. So our game plan in this lesson is, first of all, we're going to modify the layout of the main page.xaml to include a topic or search text box that will allow a user to add or type in a specific search term to include in the search of images from Flickr. Then we're going to make that topic, take that topic rather, and send it to Flickr's web service. That'll require that we change some of the code in a couple of places to accommodate the passing and the receiving of the topic value. Then we're going to add the concept of radius to the app, which would allow us to specify the distance of the latitude and the longitude for Flickr to include in its search. I'm also going to change the code a little bit to harden it, or rather to make it impervious to accidental or malicious values that are nonsensical. So we're going to, in other words, practice defensive programming, and I'll talk about that a little bit. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I want to do is clean up the main page.xaml because we want to add our search box, and the first thing we're going to do is change up the definitions here. I'm going to get rid of this topmost row. I'm going to change this row definition, not give it a height, which will basically just say, which is essentially the same thing as giving it a height equal asterisk, okay? And then I'm going to change this to auto, all right? And then I'm going to add a text block. All right, so now I only have 2 rows. And in the top row, I'm going to put the map. So that should take up the majority of the space. And then below the map, what I'm going to do is add a stack panel. And I'm going to put it into grid.row equals 1, so that'll put in the second row. And then I'm going to add a text block and set its text equal to topic. And I'll tell you what we're going to do there as well. I'm going to go foreground equal to, and we'll just set this to a static resource, phone subtle brush. Okay. And then I'm going to add a text box that'll allow the user to type in the search topic. And if we were to stop right there, and you can see here, let's zoom in a little bit more. Zoom in at like 67. Go down the bottom here. And you can see that, if I can get a selection outside of this, it really what I would like there's a built-in padding or margin, and I would like to push that text box all the way out to the left-hand side so that it lines up with the T in topic. And then to make it symmetrical, I'd like to accomplish the same thing over here as well. And I happen to know that's a 12 pixel margin, so to negate a 12 pixel margin, I'm going to give it a new margin, and I'm going to set it to -12 on the left. That should push it out, and 0 on the top, -12 on the right, and 0 on the bottom. And when I do that, let's get our mouse cursor out here. Okay, now we're lined up nicely with the T and topic there, and the same will be true over here. Now here's just a little trick. You don't have to specify -12, 0, -12, 0. If you were to leave off the last 2 values, then it will be -12, 0, -12, 0 automatically. Or if you were to just set the margin equals -12, it'll be a -12 on all 4 sides. So just a little small tip there. All right, great. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to take the value, whatever's been typed into search topic, and I want to pass that to our search results page. So in the main page.xaml.cs, whenever the user clicks on the search click icon in the app bar, we want to pass along one additional value. Topic equals, and we'll send in a second replace value there. And so I'm going to need to get the topic from somebody, somehow, somewhere. And that means that I'm going to need to retrieve string topic equals our search topic dot text value. All right. And I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to wrap this search topic dot text in something called HTTP utility dot URL encode, and first of all, you can see that it also comes from system.net.http utility. I think we already have that using statement. System.net. It comes from the same place as this, I believe, or actually it's system.net. Okay, good. All right, and really what's important is what it does. It converts a text string into a URL encoded string. So I'm concerned that a user might enter characters into the search topic.text field that could be interpreted incorrectly, especially when they're passed over the internet. For example, using an ampersand or a question mark could harm the interpretation of the rest of the query string. So this URL encode method can be used to encode the query string values or even the entire URL. If characters such as blanks and punctuation are passed in an HTTP stream without encoding, they might be misinterpreted at the receiving end. So URL encoding converts characters that are not allowed in a URL into a character entity equivalent. So for more information about URL encoding, check out this post on MSDN. So when you're working with query strings, whether in HTML or XAML, it's always a good idea to URL encode, especially if you're going to then pass that query string to another website, and especially if that value was originally entered by an end user who could type in anything, including unpredictable values. All right, so that should clear up that potential problem. Now what we want to do in the search results.xaml.cs is accommodate that on the onNavigated 2. So let's create a private string underscore topic, and then in there we will put underscore topic equals navigation context dot query string, and we'll retrieve out topic. Okay. And now what we want to do is I want to pass this into the get Flickr images, because that's ultimately what will make the call to Flickr. So before I actually do that, let's go back. Let's go to our Flickr image.cs file, and let's change this definition and add the notion of a topic. Okay, and then I know that I'm going to need to pass that into this get base URL. So let's go to definition, and I'm going to go string topic as well, right here. And then in string topic, let's add topic like right here. So add topic, or what is it? It's actually text, isn't it? I seem to recall when we were originally looking at, at text, a free text search. Photo whose title, description, or tags contain the text will be returned. Okay, so that's what we're looking for here. So not topic, text. And we'll pass that in as the fourth input parameter. And so here, here, we'll pass in topic. Great. Now let's make sure we're actually calling. Yeah, we're going to need to change this and pass in the topic here. Actually, underscore topic. All right, let's make sure it builds. Then I haven't forgot to include it somewhere. Yeah, I forgot it somewhere. Ah, yeah. There. Right? Yeah, that should work. Okay, good. So let's run it. All right, and so now let's, I'm going to hit page down to get rid of the keyboard. I'm going to type in observatory and click search. All right, so I get back different images. Now I have no real way to validate these results other than to perform a similar search on Flickr's own website and then look for similarities between the list I'm displaying in the AroundMe app and the results from their website. But I'm satisfied with the results, so I'm not going to take the time to thoroughly check the results. I'll just trust that it's working for now. So we've satisfied the title of this lesson, of this video, by adding filtering on the results based on keywords. However, in the time that remains, what I want to do is add two small improvements to our getFlickrImages method in the FlickrImage.cs file. First one is that I'm going to stop hard coding the radius, and I'm actually going to pass that in to our FlickrImage.getFlickrImages method. And the intent here is so that the AroundMe map, if you were to kind of zoom in or zoom out, we can take the amount of information, so the radius displayed on that map, and pass it in. So we can expand the radius or shrink the radius by using the zoom in or zoom out of the map itself. I'm not going to implement that in this series of videos, however. Clint implemented part of that in his example, but I don't want to take the time to do it because it's very code intensive. Instead, I'm going to let you take a look at Clint's original version of the AroundMe app, and then you can decipher out how to do that on your own. It'd be a great exercise to learn. There's a lot of math. I don't know, I get confused when there's too much math, so I'm going to leave it to him to show you how to do that. But we're going to set it up because we've already done the hard work. We've already done this once with text, introducing another variable to the call. And then the second thing that I want to do is I'm going to add some defensive programming. So the phrase defensive programming is a thought process or an approach to writing code. In this case, I'm going to apply that thought process to mean that I want to do some checking of the query string values that we receive and ultimately pass to our getFlickrImages method, to check the values that were input for latitude and longitude that I'm passing from the main page to the results page, and I want to add double quotes around the topic that I want to pass to the Flickr API so the user can add a phrase. If you want to learn more about defensive programming from a high level, a great place to start is at Wikipedia at this URL. So let's begin adding the notion of radius to our app. I'm not going to take the time, like I said, to implement this fully. I'm going to make sure that Clint's original application that adjusts the radius that we sent to Flickr based on how zoomed in or zoomed out we are is available. So look for that somewhere here on this webpage where you're currently watching or originally downloaded this video. So at any rate, I'm going to modify the FlickrImage.cs file. Specifically, I'm going to modify our getBaseURL method to include a radius input parameter. So here at the very bottom, we'll go double radius equal radius equals double dot not a number. Okay, and we'll get back to this not a number business here in a little bit. And then I want to also go down here, and I'm going to change out radius to add it there, and then finally I'm going to add it there. And it looks like I missed a comma there. Okay, that should make it work nicely. Now I'm not satisfied with this just yet. I'm going to rework some of this in order to take advantage of these not a number defaults that I've added here. And the idea is this, and why I've even added these in the first place. If these values are not sent in, these are optional values, if they're not sent in to the call to the getBaseURL method, then I don't want to include them here in my string URL, and I don't want to add them into ultimately the base URL that gets returned by this method. Okay. Furthermore, with regards to topic, I want to add double quotes around it. There's some massaging of the data after I construct the basics of this URL. Okay. So let's change some things out about this. And fortunately, it doesn't matter what order we send these in. So I can remove things like latitude, longitude, the text, and the radius, like so. And this will still work. Of course, the base URL is going to not work quite as well because we need to get rid of now all of this stuff, pretty much all the variable bits, except for the Flickr API key. And then here, I'm going to do some gated checks. If not double dot is a number, latitude. So if the latitude value passed in is not a number, and we'll do the same thing for longitude. If the longitude is not a number, then I'll go ahead and add them. But if not, we won't add them in. Okay. So and lat equals 0 and longitude equals 1, and then we'll substitute in latitude and longitude. Okay, so we're making sure that these are real values. If they're not a number, then we will not add them to our URL that we're actually going to return back and then call, right? So that's the thought process there. So we're doing that gated check. We'll do the same thing with radius. Double is not a number, radius. So if it's not passed in, we'll just leave it out. If it is in, we'll go ahead and add it. Okay. And the last thing I want to do is make it so that we can add a phrase with spaces in between. The URL encoding should have taken care of this, but just to be on the safe side, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap the text with double quotes, and I'm going to go ahead and just URL encode the double quotes as a %22. That's a double quote in ASCII. So if not string dot is null or white space topic. So as long as there's something in that string topic, then base URL string dot format and text equals, and so here we go. %22 replacement code 0. %22 quotation mark for the ending of that literal string, and then we'll replace topic in there. All right, great. And everything else should work just fine. Now, since we have changed our getBaseURL method to include radius, let's make sure that we have it everywhere. Like, for example, we haven't added it here, so it's going to be not a number. We want it in there, but that will mean that we need to supply it. Of course, we're going to do that here. Like so. Very good. And then finally, what we're going to do is in our search results.xaml.cs page, we're going to add the notion of radius. So private double radius, like that. And then when we call Flickr images, send it in like that. And then we'll go ahead and retrieve it from a query string. So we'll pass it all the way from the front. So radius, and when I say pass it all the way from the front, I mean we're passing it in from our main page.xaml.cs. So we're going to change this to and radius equals. We'll add a fourth replacement. And here I'm just going to hard code the number 5. And at this point, you would want to take a look at what Clint has done, and with his version of the app that retrieves how zoomed in or zoomed out you are, and then based on the map and the zoom level and the pixels that are visible, then that would somehow relate to your radius in terms of kilometers. There's a whole calculation. I don't get it. He's a smarter guy than I am. I'm willing to admit that. But let's go ahead and run and make sure our app still kind of works, since we made a lot of changes to it. Okay. All right, and here we go. We want to get into, let's look observatory again. Click search. And we get back results like we did before. Maybe they're a little bit more narrow because we changed from a large, or maybe they're more broad actually because we changed. However, I think observatory limits that. Okay, so the recap, the big takeaway from this lesson was how to grab values from XAML input controls. Didn't really talk about that a whole lot, but here in the main page.xaml.cs, we did something we haven't done before, and that was to retrieve the text value of the search topic text box control. Okay, and then we also talked about how to program defensively to make sure we check the input values to ensure that they're valid. We talked about how to URL encode whenever you pass values, especially end user generated input values, into query strings of any type. That's what we did here. And along the way, we were able to expand the usability of our app by allowing the user to specify the type of images that he or she is looking for by adding the topic. And then also we talked about the radius, but again, you'll want to take a look at Clint's work for that. Okay, so that concludes this lesson. We'll continue on the next lesson. We'll see you there. Thanks.